Hi, everyone. Welcome to Side Hustle to Solopreneur, Learn, Connect, and Grow. I'm Colin, founder and CEO of Pure Founder, a entrepreneur hub, and also the host of Startup or Shut Up, our video podcast about everything entrepreneurship. My technical co-founder just ended up leaving, but we're building out something pretty spectacular with Pure Founder and would love for you guys to be able to join as well. So just a quick heads up after the interview. We'll give some extra time to network, and trivia doesn't start until January. So you'll have to come on back for trivia as well at Berks. So a huge thank you to Brendan, the owner of Berks Public House, for welcoming us in every month going forward. And this is our very first one. So thank you guys very, very much in order to be able to join us today. And please support with any food or beverages. That's what kind of keeps the meeting going. He's allowing us to use the space for free. And there's a ton of specials for November as well. So check those out. Feel free to get up anytime to order food, use the restroom. You won't bother us during the interview or anything like that. Just enjoy, make yourself at home. So with tonight's flow, I'll interview Chris Wilhelmi for about 45 minutes, and then we'll also open it up to the floor for about 15 minutes for Q&A. And we are also streaming online at the moment. That's with the full setup. Super exciting to be able to have that as well. And if anyone is joining us virtually, make sure you drop your questions in the chat, and then we'll be able to ask those as we go along as well. So further ado, so please help welcome Chris Wilhelmi, educator, creator, and soon to be published author of the Un-Reeducation of America. Thank you so much for joining, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, it's super cool how we ended up meeting. His sister, I ended up meeting in Kalamazoo, Michigan, who is a founder of a tech company. And so we just ended up starting to chat it up and ended up connecting. And this is our first time actually meeting in person. So super exciting. So Chris, give us your origin story, where you grew up and what pulled you toward education.
I started high school outside Chicago, and I finished high school in Southwest Michigan. And then I went to a small college and then transferred to Western Michigan University, where I played lacrosse. And how I came in education was I almost dropped out of college, but I was having a tough time. My dad promised if I graduate college, he'll get me a job on the Chicago Board of Trade trading floor. So I did graduate, and we ended up commuting. I saw through your interview with Abby about how the sacrifice my dad made, traveling 5 hours a day just to commute from Southwest Michigan to Chicago. So I started my career making $150 a week on the grain floor of the Chicago Board of Trade. And then I transitioned to doubling that, which wasn't very much, but I moved to Chicago, and I was in the trading pits for 10 years. Now, along the way, there were signs that in the trading pits that eventually it would go electronic. So I was doing everything I could to spin out of that. I wrote a advertising portfolio. I did stand-up comedy. I attempted graduate school one time, and I was always trying to spin out because I knew it would come to an end, and eventually it did. So I decided to go into education because I had always been coaching, and I loved coaching kids. And I accumulated this love for history. So I thought I'd marry the two and become a history teacher.
Very cool. And what really drove you for education specifically? And what problems do you see in education right now that kind of pulled you or grabbed you that you couldn't ignore?
Well, I student taught at a premier, one of the best schools in the state. And when they were not hiring, I went to a hiring event, which was being held at a premier school. So I thought I was interviewing at the premier school, but it ended up being 7 different high schools interviewing for an inclusion program, which basically was teaching to 15-year-old students that were aged out of grade school. So I ended up getting a job in one of these inclusion academies. So what I really loved about that and what I loved about education was seeing the light go on. I wrote a screenplay about one of those kids, Demetrius Johnson, if you're watching. I haven't seen you in a while. These kids 100% were expected not to make it out of high school. And we turned about 85% around to get them an 8th grade diploma and finally enter the school as legitimate sophomores after their first year. And those first 4 years were when I fell in love with education and educating, seeing the light go on. That's always been my ambition.
That's really amazing. And we also have Abby in the chat, your sister. She's saying hello. Live stream is going. And again, anyone that's joining us on live stream, make sure you're dropping any questions in the chat for us too. What did you love most about teaching day to day?
And interacting with the kids, because I saw where they were And it reminded me of myself. I mentioned I tried to drop out of college. It reminded me of myself, but in the circumstances, these kids were trying to come to school, an extremely dangerous part of the city, of the south and west sides, and even the hardest core members of certain groups, one-on-one, they wanted help. They cried for help, and in some cases, they actually cried because they had to put up a front for their friends and people around the school, but they really just wanted to learn. They wanted to learn more about themselves, and they wanted to explore the opportunity of spinning out of the cyclical desperation that's prevalent in some of these schools still after 25 years. Working with those kids was by far the most rewarding experience I've ever had. It's changed since then, but I'm very fond of those times.
That's really cool. What do you think is like the silver bullet for anyone that is growing up in that community in order to be able to pull them out of poverty or fund them to change the direction?
It's a silver bullet laced in cyanide. It's education. They want to be educated. And when I am told you have to pass these kids because of what they're going through, and this is when I came up against the wall in education, where it's exactly the opposite. We have to be more rigorous on them because of what they're going through. And when we are told to take it easy on a population that the society expects us to take it easy on, we're perpetuating the cycle of desperation and economic uncertainty. That is a crime to me. And to be forced to do that in the name of attendance numbers and graduation rates is a crime. It's an educational crime, especially with students who need it the most. In the district I worked in, 7 of the top 10 schools in the state are in the district. 29 of the bottom 30 are in the district. But the overarching mission statement is we're going to prepare these kids for college success. That is not the case. It's a lie and it's false advertising. Where I'd like to see it is if we can, I'm sure you're going to ask these questions soon, but we need the 4 major stakeholders of teachers, administrators, parents, and students are in their separate corners. We're against one another. And teachers are taking it from 3 different stakeholders. And we seem to be the bastion, or as I say in the book, we're the off-ramp and everyone else has to come off our ramp and we're blamed for the traffic. Well, I'm sure we'll get into more about stakeholder relationships, which is basically what the book's about. But there needs to be a dramatic shift in how we address education, especially for those that deserve it the most.
Completely agree. What didn't you enjoy most within the school system and education?
Well, I enjoyed my first 4 years. And then I ran into an administrator. At the end of the first quarter, he announced to the staff, we need to get these GPAs up. That to me was a siren song. That was so inappropriate. We need to get these GPAs up. And I guess it was my facial expression. I tend to wear my heart on my sleeve. But I raised my hand and I said, I'll lower my standards when college is lower there. And it ended up being, and this is when I saw the glacial decrease in our ability to actually facilitate learning. I worked with Linda Sayers, who was the wife of Gail Sayers, a Hall of Fame running back for the Bears, and also in Brian's song about Brian Piccolo. I worked with her. She was involved in what's called the nouveau riche of the African-American community. In the civil rights movement, there was the rich, the poor, the educated, and uneducated. And she was part of this nouveau riche. She was a celebrity. She's married to a future Hall of Famer, and she had a platform. And she wanted to bring this platform into this all African-American school and help teach these kids who were desperation and underperforming and free and reduced lunch. But she said she just could not get over the apathy of the institution. She couldn't get over it. I was tasked with teaching the civil rights instruction, and I wrote it myself. And my goal, she would not come see me. My goal was to get her to come see me teach. And it took 2 years, but when I finally found a way to have students engage in a timeline project that included them researching where and when they came from to come up north for the Great Migration, that hooked her in. And without her and that instruction, I would not have reached the plateau of my career, which came with, we ended up identifying that Emmett Till, the catalyst of the modern civil rights movement, was the catalyst of the civil rights movement. And it was before Rosa Parks. He is not in our U.S. history books. He's not in the index. He's got maybe a paragraph, 368. He is not in the index of an American history textbook. And we found out about the Texas whitewashing, about removing Thurgood Marshall, Cesar Chavez. So I had my students construct their own letter to the authors of these textbooks, specifically targeting an African-American professor from Harvard. Sir, can we please, my students want to send you a letter? Absolutely. I'd love to hear from African-American students. And we send them a letter excoriating him on the exclusion of Emmett Till in this book. We heard nothing back. And I was so proud of these kids, and they were so proud. They actually reached someone from Harvard, the same administrator who wanted to get these GPAs up. We dared ask him, can we please send this to the Tribune or a major paper? And can we have the letterhead on it? And he was apoplectic. How dare I ask anything of him with this letter that 10 of my students wrote? I didn't write any. That was the wall I hit. And from then on, it's been downhill.
Wow, that's impactful. And going back to your education too, finalizing this, do you happen to have one student in memory that really still kind of fuels you today? And can you share that story really quickly?
Yes, his name was Patrick. He was like a 7-foot tall kid who loved to sleep in class. And I used to get on him relentlessly. It's like, what are you going to do at the next level? You want to go to college. What are you going to do at the next level? You got to wake up in class. You got to do your work. You got to learn how to study. And he's like, man, I don't want to hear that. And eventually he started to get it because I would feed him things that would improve a certain fundamental tactic or a fundamental skill like note taking. And note taking leads to better notes, and the better notes leads to better scores on a test. And he graduated, and as far as I knew, he hated it, which most of them did, because I was strict. I believed in they should learn. He came back Thanksgiving break and came up and hugged me, all 7 foot tall. And it was like, they call me Wilhelmi. Wilhelmi, man, thank you. What? Because I went to a class, you were right. They kick people out for misbehaving, not doing their work. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is the payment. And that I've gotten that in grocery stores and bus stops, on buses, all across the city. I run into some of these kids. And one of them actually became a colleague. He's a social worker. That is the payment. That's the ambition for me.
That's so awesome. Very, very cool. And just a really quick plug. So everyone received an email about an hour before starting. There's a couple of promos in there for you all for attending, specifically with Peer Founder. So where Peer Founder is a platform for solopreneurs and small business owners. Join the community tonight by midnight, and you'll be able to join the community for free for lifetime access as we expand learning and different other access and valuable resources as well. Plus, you'll also receive a $50 in credit for platform fees as well. And that's only available for you tonight until midnight. And if you already have a business established, you can also join and list your business on our directory in order for other business owners to be able to discover you and your business in order to utilize your business as well. So it's a community for entrepreneurs to support each other. So Chris, you also started creating an online presence. Seems like a little bit of YouTube. What's going on? Why are you sharing publicly? What's your goal with like your YouTube and your bio site?
I dip my toe in the water with YouTube and Instagram. The issue is that as an educator, there's risk of revenge. That's not the best word, but there's risk of being excluded from the educational community. So when I dipped my toe in the water, I was resistant because I didn't want my face and my name out there because I'm still connected in education. But I decided to just get the book released and put a face on it and accept the consequences. Because every single teacher, and I invite any of you in the online audience or in person, talk to a teacher, ask them one question: what is your grading scale? And you will see the look on their face. That's one targeting in this book, is getting teachers to just acknowledge within themselves, because they would not be interviewed for this book. And I knew they wouldn't because I'm one of them. So when the book is released, I guess we'll talk about this, but I'm not sure how comfortable I am having an online presence. I'm hoping the book speaks for itself. It's a very tenuous area for me. It's scary, as in, I know online world. If Twitter was around when Mark Twain was writing Huckleberry Finn, he never would have wrote Huckleberry Finn. It's a space that you have to be very careful entering, because hopefully it's a constructive space, but I'm still tenuous.
Yeah, I definitely identify with that with you because that's one thing that I was kind of struggling with as I was coming up with my concept for Peer Founder and also my podcast is just becoming a public figure. And eventually there's going to be some haters and what have you, and trolls that are going to be.
I can handle the hatred. Just make it constructive hatred. Uh, it's just, it's a very, very uncomfortable space for me.
So as you progress with your online presence and your website and everything, what topics do you really enjoy talking about that resonate with you most?
The topics I enjoy are, and as a matter of fact, the purpose of the book is to identify underlying factors that have drastically diminished in-class educators' ability to facilitate academic and personal skills. I'm trying to hook teachers into at least acknowledging that someone has written down what they feel. And there's a section on the website called teacher feedback. And the only responses I've gotten is, I'm sorry, essentially, I'm sorry I can't comment. I just don't feel comfortable. I don't want my name out there. I get it. No one would be interviewed for this book. I expected that too. But this is a book that tells administrators, parents, and students what teachers can't and won't say. The parent conferences where, what does Johnny have to do? Well, you got to get the joystick out of Johnny's hand. You're a terrible parent. Can't say that. But in effect, it's saying what they are not comfortable saying, but also offering solutions to get us out of this mess. What's the problem with administration? Here's the solution. Parents solution, student solution. And to be fair, I go after teachers.
Wonderful. So now let's jump over to your book, The Un-Reeducation of America. Let's talk about the title a little bit and what also kind of drove you to start writing this book.
Well, I was displaced in 2010, 2011, something like that. And I started writing a comedic blog just to put into words the ridiculousness of what we were forced to endure. I was circled around the city for 2 weeks at a clip just so I wouldn't be able to establish relationships to get a job. And I talked to hundreds of teachers, saw thousands of students. And at the end, I was honorably terminated from the district. Thank you. I still have the letter. Honorably terminated. Thank you very much. Then I became an administrator as dean of students. And this is in a district school. And it started okay. The student code of conduct was that I could actually, and discipline is not always punishing. It's redirecting and intervening and facilitating and building relationships and turning these relationships. And what turned it for me is when a student brought what would be considered ordnance to the school. It was 12 tightly wrapped Roman candles, which then I'm working with active duty Balkan War veterans who backed off like, whoa, it's a bomb. And when the assistant principal, who fell all the way up the ladder to assistant chief of some network within the system, patted me on the shoulder and said, that is automatic arrest and expulsion. He made him write a paragraph. I resigned as dean that day. And it was my son who was right here. There he is. And this is the heading of the introduction where I sat alone at an empty desk. And it was him. I was coaching lacrosse at a private school, and it was half my salary. But my son said, if you don't leave this district, you're going to get patriotic cancer. Remember that? Patriotic cancer. Pancreatic, right? Thank you. All right. But that was the catalyst. And the impetus for the book was not my time in the public school district. It was teaching at a private school where plenty of elite students go to major universities. But the catalyst was when I was finally able to reset my career and teach 2 college skills, which must be included in every major content area. You must have 2 college skills. I taught note-taking and writing. A 5-paragraph essay every 2 weeks, 2 to 3 sentences every 2 days. Shouldn't be that hard for an elite high school, right? I felt like a teacher again. I put these kids through my ass-kicking boot camp and made them into at least a 5-paragraph writer and researcher and note-taker. So my principal comes in near the end of the year. I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm going to get some praise. Teachers never get praise. They get emails. Come see me. He comes in. I'm like, Mr. Wilhelmi, parents are concerned. Oh, here we go. Why are you assigning writing? You are not a writing teacher. And I said, sir, writing is an assessment. Last I checked. Because the primary responsibilities of most of the history teachers in the school are coaches first, teachers second. So they would come to me to get these text-generated worksheets and crossword puzzles and sit and check their emails while the kid was filling out worksheets. I'm making them research, take notes, and write a piece of writing. And at the end of 2 years, I was unceremoniously told that due to a drop in enrollment, I would not be welcome back. That was the catalyst, that these two dissimilar institutions or these two dissimilar systems operated the exact same way, that administrators kowtow to parents. Parents are now customers, and I am simply a school monitor or a customer service representative. I felt all my teaching duties and all my experience and my passion for teaching and connecting was patently burgled at that moment. I felt worthless. That was a low point, almost insurmountable. And that's when I started writing the book that summer.
Wonderful. And if you were to give us a 2-sentence elevator pitch of your book, would you mind providing that for us?
I'll give you one sentence with a semicolon.
Sure.
Okay, the issue in education is not the students, it's the adults. That's the book.
It always seems to start with the adults.
It seems to be education has now come to protect adults' careers instead of teaching students.
Interesting. Yeah, I took a class over at Truman, and it was more of an intro, and I can't remember exactly, but I remember the very first day that the professor told everyone that, because the grand majority of everyone was Chicago public schools, and he's like, "You're no longer in an environment where I don't want you to interact. Like, I need you to speak up. You're not in a babysitting service anymore where they all told you to just shut up and not participate," which was kind of interesting because I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Michigan. So who must read your book, and what should they do differently tomorrow?
It's primarily meant for teachers, and it's meant for teachers in that this is in their voice. And there is a chapter called Who is a Teacher? That's the nice chapter on who is a teacher and what does a teacher do. But it also addresses, one of the chapters is called Educators versus Teachers. What has happened, especially since the end of COVID, is the apathy some of these teachers have. They feel beaten, downtrodden, disenfranchised, and I completely agree with them. They're being beaten by administration, beaten by parents, and suffering the apathy of students that don't feel the need to study or take notes, because we as teachers are either overtly or covertly pressured to pass everyone. Special needs students, the directive is pass them all. If any of you know any special ed teachers, the directive is pass them all. No work, pass them all. Miss 44 out of 48 days, pass them. Now, what does that do? It makes them feel like they have some kind of skill or ability. And what we're really doing is just crumpling up their futures. And we're going to give them a graduation diploma and toss them, because you are now a graduation number. And what's worse is the imbalance of academic and personal skills instruction. It's not college start in 6th grade, and it starts by learning how to listen, learning how to take notes, respect, or perseverance, stick-to-itiveness, self-advocacy, inquiry. We're not teaching those things. It's all based on test scores or standardized test scores. If they misbehave, it's absolutely swept under the rug. So teachers are actually toothless to hold them accountable disciplinary, hold them accountable academically. So we are room monitoring.
That's very frustrating. It's frustrating for you as a teacher. It's frustrating for the students.
And add to that,
in our society,
administrator pressures to make sure all students pass, absolute student apathy, because they know they're not going to get in trouble. They know they're going to get 50% on an assignment that was never done. And the parents just keep throwing that. It's called the 1090 rule. I spent 90% of my time on 10% of the parents, and that is anxiety inducing. When I get an email at 9:30 at night, how dare you, ... It destroys someone's psyche, and it just wears these teachers down. They can't do anything. They're powerless to teach or discipline. And to get out of that rut, I took time off to finish this book. I cannot return to education. No one will hire me. I'm too expensive. So anyone out there, I'm available to offer my experience in education to help your organization. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn or through Colin. That's another thing. I'm unhireable, because I have 2 master's degrees and 20 years of experience. And I'm a former dean of curriculum instruction and students. And I've on a lark, just to have a laugh, I'll apply for teaching positions, and I'll apply for assistant principal, and it's crickets. I'm too expensive. It's amazing.
Interesting. There's a question in the chat for online from Tess that goes along with what we're talking about with your book. Tess asks, as a parent, the book seems like something I should read. How could I benefit?
There's a chapter on parents, which took me 10 months to write because I had to take all the vitriol out of all the emails from parents that I got over the years. What's very poignant for parents is not only what the problem is with these 10% of parents being just trying to discredit us and disenfranchise us and taint our careers. I offer a way for you to be active in your students' pursuit of college preparedness. And one of the main tenets of this is communication with the instructor. It takes us 3 weeks to get to know 120 students' names. If you sense that they might have a disciplinary issue, I outline in the book, reach out to us. We'll see how our discipline methods we can work together. This book is meant to repair these stakeholder relationships. In 2 separate chapters, I offer parents exactly what they can do and how they can do it to reconnect with the teachers and work as one in a collaborative effort instead of against each other, to facilitate the learning of their child, and also accept that students must experience failure and how to experience failure. That 1 chapter for parents, what to do for missed assignments, they're not studying very well, what to do, disciplinary issues, what to do, who to speak to. And the basic premise is if you reach out to us, because we have 150 kids a day, we will bend over backwards because we want to connect to your student, because then that's one less student we need to worry about. And we have a great relationship with you. And we will check every student's schedule. We'll check all the grades. We'll check the assignments. We'll do metadata on their assignments and how they're doing. And if you want us to throw another college skill in there, I'll make sure we do. And then the other chapter is what to do to prepare your student for college. And it lays out a sample syllabus from the University of Wisconsin and what you need to do and hold teachers accountable.
Interesting. And how do you view school just always trying to prepare students for college? Are there also students that aren't college ready or college, like they're not necessarily the best candidate for college? Trade school, are there other options for them?
Yes, there are other options. So let me ask the room, out of 100%, what percent of all high school students, from the best to the worst, what percent graduates in 4 years? National. It's exactly right. 33% graduate out of every high school, no matter what the level is. 33% graduate in 4 years. 50 and change for 6 years, which adds another 30 grand onto the bill. So if we're calling our schools college prep and only a third are graduating, are we really preparing students to college prep? Absolutely not. It's false advertising, and it's also a disservice to those students that neither have the aptitude or the desire or the financial ability to go to college. We ignore them at our peril. We force them to take these standardized tests. We make them apply for colleges. We make them fill out the FAFSA forms, but we never address their interests. Do you like working with your hands? Do you, let's say a kid wants to be a plumber, which is an honorable and a very well-paying job. Why can't we in geometry class apply the principles of plumbing to geometry? Let them know that these classes are not throwaway classes. You can use these classes, cosmetologists in science, how to mix chemicals safely, or in math, how to be an entrepreneur and run your numbers correctly in an entrepreneurship class. I have a whole chapter on the economy of labor. You mentioned before this that Gen Z. Yeah, Gen Z. Okay, that the AI is taking over. Well, we have in the unskilled labor and skilled labor sector, we have jobs being taken away by robots. But our kids are thrown to the wind, never prepared for the workforce if they want to go to the workforce or be an entrepreneur like that young lady you interviewed who has a nail salon. She wasn't taught that in high school.
No, her parents.
Yeah, she was forced to fill out the FAFSA form. Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs, he had an excellent point. He said that we are trying to build a few nuclear submarines. We don't have English majors building submarines. We need skilled welders and electricians and all the trades to get in there and build the most powerful weapon in the history of mankind. And he advocates strongly for the trades. We need to offer, much like Germany, France, Great Britain, and Canada do, a path halfway through high school to pursue a trade if you so desire, or at least be exposed to some work study programs or some internships or apprenticeships. It's absolutely criminal that you can't get 65% to graduate college, yet we rob them of 2 full years in high school from the ability of learning what their next option is.
Yeah, very frustrating. But the book, what's the current status of the book, and what's your launch?
I have a great relationship with my editor. I do, and I love her very much. No, she's told me that by December 1st, she's had the final version, which I keep updating. She's had the final version for a couple of weeks. My daughter designed the cover, and I think once she contacts me with the final version, she's given me one draft. I think it's a quick process pushing send. I think it's about December 1st.
And where is it going to be distributed?
Amazon.
Fabulous. Awesome. And then just another quick plug. Tonight is brought to you by My Julep, created by a female founder. So if you've ever heard of Linktree or used Linktree for social media links, she kind of mashed that together with a personal brand website into one. And in your email, there's also an offer for a 14-day trial. And if you also sign up for 30 days free, and teach you how to build that website out for you as well. So this is all about entrepreneurism. Becoming an author is an entrepreneur in itself. Can we talk a little bit more about your kind of what drove you to start writing and the process of writing as well?
The process was me trying to establish some kind of sanity as to what we were all going through, trying to make sense of, we would hang out in certain social circles, and we got this guy over here is a finance baker going to Paris, or this one's got a summer house in Belize. And then they introduced me as a teacher, and the look on their face, bless your heart. I don't need that. We don't get promotions. We don't get raises. We don't get praise, and we're not in it for that. My ambition is to help kids, especially these inner school or these urban learners. What I'm learning is through our conversations is that there's a difference between writing and being in a business. So I'm in the unique position to where I've written a book. Now I need to get into the entrepreneurial side of things, which I'm a complete novice, and I welcome any free help to help me market this book. But I'm excited to learn this. I'm not excited to learn this part of this. I just like to write. I love to write. Now, I've already got 2 more projects in the pike that I got to deal with. This started as a way for me to check my sanity, and it was more like an open letter to my family for us all to make sense, through some lost time. But through its numerous iterations, it's something I think will be valuable to parents, especially students. It checks teachers and administrators. I think it'd be a powerful message.
Completely agree. And talking about the entrepreneur side of the book, do you happen to have a plan in place of like your circuit of spreading the word about your book? Have you thought about that? Have you started working with your producer and what have you? What's your plan of getting this out there?
No, I know I talked to my editor about marketing, and that's part of a book proposal, the marketing aspect. But I wrote this book in complete isolation. Excuse me. I wouldn't let anyone read it because I just needed to make sense of it for myself. And I wasn't quite sure what it would become and what it would say. As far as focus groups, no, I wrote in complete isolation. But I think I'd be happy with, as my editor said, that I maybe recoup my publishing fees. I'd be happy with that, just as long as I made sense of what I had to go through and what all of us are going through. As far as focus groups, the second iteration of this book will be Stakeholders Speak. That will be my focus group. What do teachers think about it? What would they like to add? Parents, where did I go wrong? Do you have any other ideas? What are your ideas to fix the relationship? What interests do your kids have that we can help, all of us can help? How do we get administrators to stop kowtowing to parents and district mandates? How do we actually put the teeth back into facilitating learning for students? We move so far away from students protecting adults' careers. The second iteration of the book will be They Speak, because I'm going to get some things wrong. I'm going to have different viewpoints. I think that I want to start a dialogue with some of these parents and administrators, and especially the students. What are we all thinking now? That's my feedback is the second book, Stakeholders Speak. And then we can start a conversation. And then we can start to put together what is education. It's not for adults, it's for students.
Wonderful. And then we're running a little bit out of time, so we're going to kind of jump around. But this is a question for the audience, both in person and online. Who's thought about writing a book? Show of hands, or if you're also in the chat, just type book for me, please. No one.
Not all at once.
Not a single person. Interesting. If you have already written a book, raise your hand.
Not all at once.
Maybe they're hiding.
Who's ever read a book? No one.
There we go. Who's ever read a book?
Who knows what a book is? Think so.
It's a thing with pages and some words
I
out.
got a Q&A for you. That's the lost art is reading.
Yeah. Let's touch on that really quickly. What do you think is going to differentiate you? Because it seems like a lot of people don't pick up a book anymore. Have you ever thought about maybe doing an audiobook and reading that out for people to be able to listen?
I could, but come on, people. It's a book. Read a book. If you don't, you know what? I'm going to say it right here. If you don't read my book, fine. But I'm not going to dictate it into a Google machine. I mean, you can actually, if you buy it's available in ebook and paperback. You have a program that Siri, whatever her name is, can read it to you. But as long as you get the information, I'm happy with that. Whatever way you feel comfortable, come on, pick up a book. Seriously.
Well, Abby has said that she's read 34 so far this year.
34 what?
34 books, I think. All right, Chris, last question before we open it up for questions. Speaking directly to these founders that are starting businesses or thinking about starting businesses, what's the top 2 to 3 pieces of advice to go from an idea to a finished market-ready book?
Well, first you need the product to be deliverable and delivered and have it reviewed. Now, all the reviews I've done have been myself and my editor because it's my ideas. I don't want to subject this. And this is the publishing process. I was urged by publishers not to publish through a publishing house because it would take too much time. But this hasn't been changed. These are my words. So you can have the idea to make money, but you have to meet the two with a viable, serious product that actually says or does something of value. You can have an idea, make money, but it has to have some value in it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And now we're moving over to questions. Do we have any questions in the audience in person?
Yes, sir. My son.
How long did it take you to write the book?
If you can repeat the question for online.
How long did it take to write the book? 20 minutes. Life got in the way. It took me from start to finish. It took me 7 years, but life got in the way in there a little bit. So it took me 7 years, but as far as actual writing, about 4 years.
Any more questions in the audience in person? Looks like my husband has a question. And just remember to restate the question.
Yes, sir.
I want to know, what do you think about teaching morals, value, rights?
What do I think about teaching morals, rights, and ethics that come from the Bible?
Within the classroom.
Within public school, separation of church and state. Has to do separation. That's in the Constitution. It's not in the Constitution, but it's understood. If you want to study the Bible and the precepts of the Bible, then you should go to an institution that supports your view of that kind of instruction. There are plenty of them around, plenty of private schools that fully embrace the biblical point of view.
And then we have a question from Mandy online.
I think he has another question.
We'll slide back over there. We still have 10 minutes. We'll circle back. While writing the book, which chapter gave you the biggest challenge to write? And
Parents.
easy answer.
There's so much I wanted to say, but it took me 10 months and 7 iterations to tone it down to where it became, instead of pointing a finger, it became identifying an issue and helping parents correct it or helping parents be part of the collaborative relationship.
Thank you. And then we have a question from Abby online. She says, this feels like it might apply elsewhere. What lessons could someone outside of education find in your book?
A collaboration, understanding that in any relationship, any business entity, there are relationships and there are collaborators within that relationship. And what needs to be done is active, open, and in-person, if possible, collaboration. We need to start speaking with each other, not at each other. Especially in today's political climate, we still need to find room for compromise and communication instead of finger pointing and blame.
Awesome. Any other questions from the audience?
If you were to write a fictional novel, what would it be?
If I were to write a fictional novel, what would it be? I'm already writing a fictional novel. I'm already in the steps. My brother and I wrote we wrote 2 screenplays 20 years ago. And the screenplay Through Canada is loosely based on my family's emigration from Germany in the 1840s. So it's a historical fiction, an adaptation from the screenplay my brother and I wrote.
Any additional questions from the audience in person? We have some looks going up. And then Mandy just wanted to reiterate that Chris does have a website online as well that will be distributed after.
Yes, Mandy, thank you. It's basically MySpace looking.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if this is in reality CPS.
I never said CPS.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm not sure if this is a reality in the city of Chicago, but have you ever heard of vouchers so that get students, like high-performing students, in public schools to go to private schools? And how do you feel about it?
I feel that in our city, the mother of my children and I, we struggled with her getting into, if she did not get into her selective school, we were going to move out of the city. There's no choice. I think every family deserves to have a choice for their child. The problem is our students that just miss the cut of these selective enrollment schools, which is a whole nother book and how they're selected, but they miss the cut, and the precipitous fall of that ranking of that school and the college readiness skills of that school drops them into a whole nother tier. Those are the students that suffer the most, because whether you like it or not, when you're in a classroom full of students, teachers spend 90% of the time teaching to those that do not want to be taught, which leaves the A students and the C's and B students to lie fallow. They suffer too because they're not being challenged. So any opportunity any family has to get a voucher or some advanced placement, absolutely. You're doing the best thing for your child. Just because the system is broken doesn't mean your family needs to be broken.
And I also just want to add at the very end, if there's any business owners that are here, the microphone will be yours for 1 minute in order to share your business with the rest of the crowd. We're just about there. Any other questions for Chris? So, Chris, my homeschool in Quincy, Michigan switched over to no homework. How do you feel about no homework, or how do you feel about homework for kids now?
Homeschool as in schooling at home, or about school where they're...
No, it's a public school in Quincy, and they ended up transitioning over to a no homework policy for the entire school system.
So this is in the book. This is what you need to do. Why is there no homework? Is that something that parents got together on their Facebook pages and said there's too much homework? Why was that system put into place? And if they're not doing homework, how is the class time structured? You have the obligation, as Thomas Jefferson says, when you see something that needs to be rebelled against, you have the obligation to rebel against it. Parents have the right to ask their teachers for syllabi, lesson plans, and they have the ability to go visit that class. Those teachers, where you may suspect, this especially goes for straight A students, because like I said before, if you have problem kids in the class, they're not being taught. But find out what they're doing in class. What are the in-class assignments? What does the lesson plan say, or an active unit plan for them? What are they doing in class? Because I always assign classwork, and if you didn't finish, it is homework. Not to overload kids, but if we don't get it done in class, and when they have homework, it establishes organization, time management, perseverance, and inquiry. I'm not saying they're robbing kids of this experience, but you need to not question, but you need to inquire about, so no homework, what's being done in class. And you, as a parent, you have the right to request homework and make sure it's not busy work, make sure it's something. And every class should be expressing 2 college skills. If it's not a content class, like music, art, they should be expressing 2 personal functionality skills. If they're not, they're wasting your students' time.
Interesting. Any other questions from the audience before I ask my last one? Dream podcast that you would love to be featured on?
Time Suck.
Why is that?
Dan Cummings. It's it's an inside joke of my family, but I have covertly had my emails read on his podcast 4 times. He's a comedian, and I used to be a comedian, and I sent him a few emails about the history of education. And I would like, it's not really, he doesn't really interview people, but I would love to be on Bill Maher because he's talked about education, serious educational policy experts. I'd like to have a secondary active duty educator speak with an academic.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then I had Echo over here, a business owner, that I'm going to open up for a quick little pitch for everyone.
Hey, I'm okay. I'm Echo Capitan. I own business. I own the business Money Minded Records, Black Money Familiar. And I currently have music on Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, and Facebook. I'm a studio recorder, a songwriter. I'm a vocalist. And also I'm a mark. And what it is that right now we're launching right now. We're putting in work right now. And it's doing good and it's doing great. And it's a good business. And what it is that once again, the record label name is Money Minded Records. So the lyrics and the music is created to help people out to listen to the music of a hip hop form. What it is, I accept all genres, all music. But what it is that of the beginning, we starting off with hip hop. I have a staff that's with me. We work together. And what it is it's some good music. And I want to let you know that everything with the record label has been done professionally. So it's like with a listening party to what the music is, to what it does with people, and also the sound and the beats also professionally as of the quality of the music. So the record label is doing fine, and it's sufficient for people that listen to hip hop music currently. But what it is that whatever music you listen to, it will be available soon. Once again, it's Money Minded Records, and I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud. Instagram, there's a link there that you can click on the link that it will take you directly to the music. But what it is that you give a like or a follow. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Echo. Anyone else with a business that would like to share? One final question for you, Chris. What is one piece of advice for an entrepreneur that is thinking about starting a business, or maybe they're reaching a point where they're having issues with their business?
I had plenty of issues with writing. There were months and years where I couldn't write. Just because you're done for a little bit doesn't mean you need to quit on yourself, because what you have to say matters. And if you truly believe that you have something that may help change people's lives, you just don't finish, which is what my dad taught me. You can't. If you quit on yourself, then your idea will disappear into the ether. No one will ever know you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. And then I just want to do a quick plug for my podcast. Again, that's in the email as well. So please go ahead and click that link and follow. I'm looking for my first paid sponsor in order to make these events way more exciting and to potentially give out some gifts, maybe some free drinks at the very start, but to really grow this as well. And that's very beneficial, that more followers that I have. And that's the one free thing that you guys can do in order to help me help everyone else in order to start their business or grow their business as well. So Chris, for anyone that's here and listening online, thank you guys for everyone that's joined online as well. Where can people find you on the internet and connect with you for any pieces of advice or anything?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm open for any opportunities for a former educator, but I'm on LinkedIn. I can put my email if he wants to share my email. I'd welcome a discussion. And my website, which has been posted in the chat room, I'll share that as well. But I'd really like to thank you for the opportunity. And thank you guys for coming. Thank you very much. It was a rewarding experience, and I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming and driving all the way down. And thank you to all the guests for joining. This is really, really awesome. And we are hosting this on every second Wednesday of every month, which also doesn't happen to ever fall on a holiday, which is pretty awesome. And would love for you guys to be able to reattend. Next time, bring a friend or two as well. And this is just an open space as well. I also did share, if you can reply back into the email that I sent out earlier for any recommendations, any constructive criticism, or whatever that you would recommend in order to make this more fulfilling for you, or whatever I can do in order to help you guys as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
High five.
Encore? You say encore, Austin?
And make sure you order drinks and food, and let's have a great time with networking and getting to know each other as well.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, thank you.